You know, I spent so long trying to come up with a joke for the beginning of this video that I think that earns me the role of the joke for the beginning of this video. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Canine Cannibalism. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Offspring by Jack Ketchum. The book is 293 pages, broken up into 6 parts, and then further broken up into a myriad of chapters. Text is very flowy, and the structure of the pages is extremely strange. As you can see, there's like a fucking inch and a half of margin on all the top, the bottom, and all the sides. So there's not a lot of text on the page. I mean, I read over half of it, like 2/3 of it, in a car ride over like a 4 or 5 hour period. So you could definitely finish it in a couple of days. I'll give you a quick blurb. Uh, all the cannibals in the first one died, except no, they didn't. There was one left, and now they're back with a vengeance, but not really with a vengeance. They don't have really the capacity to do vengeance, but they're back, and they're killing and sucking and fucking and murdering again, as you would expect with an incest cannibal hillbilly whatever the fuck troglodyte family. Going to be doing a bunch of different things in this video. We're going to be doing a trigger warning first and foremost. The most important thing, as I always say, with reading and reviewing any sort of extreme horror. Not going to be doing fresh thoughts sections in this video. As I said, read most of the book in a car ride and then got back from vacation after that and was far too fucking tired to do fresh thoughts. So decided against it, but I did just finish the book last night, so thoughts are still fresh in my mind. I took pretty decent notes, so the review is going to be our fresh thoughts section today. Also going to be doing a spoiler-free review. I am confident I will be able to get most of my thoughts out of the way without doing spoilers, but I will be doing a plot summary in this video. Very bare bones, just description of what happens throughout the book, and then I will be telling you some of the disturbing scenes, the gist of them. Don't want to get copyright struck. I mean, I don't think Jack Ketchum gives a fuck about some 5 subscriber YouTube channel reviewing his book and telling you some of the fucked up shit that happens in it, but still don't want that copyright strike. So we're going to be telling you the gist of that shit, and that obviously both of those things will come with a full spoiler warning. Some of the things I will say in the spoiler-free review may have some light spoilers, and I'll let you know before I say them. And then also, if I need to say anything review-wise that requires some heavier spoilers, I'll do that after the plot summary and scene review, just near the end. So if you care about that, you can skip to that and skip around. I leave timestamps in the video. That's kind of the whole fucking point of doing that, is you can skip around. If you don't give a fuck about the plot summary, you don't give a fuck about the trigger warning, just skip the fuck around. It's there for a reason. And with all of that out of the way, let's jump right in to that trigger warning. So, if you were to pick up a copy of Offspring and read it, you would find, of course, I'm going to stop saying this shit at this point, the fucking obligatory gore, torture, mutilation, death, violence, blah, 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 etc. Always in every book, if it's extreme horror, I mean, even in normal horror, you're going to find that shit. It's toned up a little bit in this book and other extreme horror books, but it's there. Also, you got the subcategories in that of cannibalism, and I've decided to start including infanticide because I figure that might upset some people, and I haven't done that in the past, and some of the books I've done in the past have included that, but I figured it's probably good to start. Better late than never, you know? So infanticide in this book. And then also there's sexual abuse throughout the book, including descriptions of necrophilia, and then sexual assault, and then lots of descriptions of rape, specifically female on male rape, which you don't really see a lot in general in media, but it's there, and I found that actually slightly interesting. Also, there's child abuse, specifically child sexual abuse. Now, it's nothing like Hog, where there's absurd amounts of just child rape, but it's very much just kids who are really young engaging in sexual acts with each other in order to produce children. So it's on the line of like being really abusive, They definitely shouldn't be engaging in those acts with each other. So if you're very sensitive to that sort of material, I would be cautious, but not that bad in my opinion. And then also there's some animal abuse. It's pretty disturbing in one of the scenes. Also, there's some general filth. I don't know if I did a general filth category for off season, but I probably should have. You got your poor hygiene. You got your shit and piss. Not anything sexual. Just a baby has shit and piss on it and in a diaper. People standing in piles of their own filth because they've been held captive. Um, that sort of thing. Like nothing, just filthy, nothing sexual really. And then normally I have a creepy crawly section for this kind of stuff, but this is so just not really in the book. I just put this as a subcategory for general filth. It's just mice and or not mice, what is it? Flies and roaches, which doesn't really make sense for the place that their roaches are seen. But there's roaches and there's flies, and they're in like one scene and then never talked about again. So, uh, if roaches or shit and shit like that really grosses you out, be careful, but not that bad. Nothing in this book is very bad. I will tell you that right now. Everything is mostly toned down compared to off season. And talking about that, I'm just going to jump right into our spoiler free review. And I'm going to start off saying some nicer things about the book before I get into some complaints. And I want to say off the bat, the book isn't bad and I didn't dislike it. But let's start with the really good things first. I very, very much appreciated the writing style. It was extremely flowy, and as far as I can recall, it is much flowier than off season. It was very interesting to read, and the syntax and just sentence structure was very nice, in my opinion. There were a couple of times where it felt very convoluted. I had to reread a paragraph out loud last night while reading the book because it was confusing. And the best I can equate it to is at the beginning of the 120 Days of Sodom, where Sod is writing these long drawn out paragraphs with clauses and clauses and clauses and clauses. It was similar to that experience where it was just multiple independent clauses and the structure of the sentences were reversed and they weren't run-ons necessarily, but there weren't any periods. But overall, the flowy style I feel was very enjoyable to read. And that's pretty much it for the writing style. And now let me get into some more of the just my opinions on the plot. Again, I want to say the book wasn't bad. I want to say I enjoyed it. It was a good book. It was not as good as Off Season for a number of reasons that I will get into, but it was a good book. One of those reasons, personally for me, that it wasn't as good was the way that it felt almost safer. As I said, after the trigger warning, it was a lot less gritty, a lot less gruesome, a lot less disturbing. I'm going to get into some slight spoilers here, so if you're really concerned, skip around, but it's really not anything. I'm not saying anything major, just very, very light spoilers. Everyone who needs to die dies, and everyone who needs to survive almost survives. It's very much cut and paste from like traditional stories and movies. It feels very traditional. This book sits right on the cusp of really good extreme horror and just normal decent horror. It's not very gritty. There are a few scenes in things like Under the Dome by Stephen King. And I mean, if you look at something like Apt Pupil by Stephen King, that easily rivals content in this book, if not surpasses it in how disturbing it is. Um, so it's very close to just being mainstream. I would say it is still more gritty and disturbing than a lot of mainstream horror. But if you read this without reading Off Season, you wouldn't really consider it to be extreme horror. Again, I would still consider it more extreme, more splatterpunk-esque, but It is nothing, nowhere near how disturbing off-season was and how gritty off-season was. Speaking of everybody who died, uh, needing to die, and everyone who lived in, or everyone who needed to die dying, and everyone who needed to live, almost everyone living, there's a character in this book, and this is one of my. It's not really a complaint. It's more just to show you how less disturbing this book is. There is a character who I thought for the majority of the book was going to die. He was built up like a lot of characters are in movies, where like at the end they will sacrifice themselves and for everyone else and then die and everyone else will live. And I was expecting that to happen. And the end of the book, that situation is introduced where this character is going to die, and I expected it for the entire book. And then the character does not die and wakes up in a hospital bed at the very end of the book. And I was shocked. That was more shocking to me than any disturbing scene throughout the book. I was so shocked that Ketchum did not kill this character off, given his track record in the last book, that with off-season, there was an original copy that was released that was heavily censored. And in this copy, the character who dies at the end, that was a big shock that I talked about in the last video, he doesn't die. He lives. There's an offhand line somewhere that's like, oh yeah, this kid survived. And then there is an uncensored version that was released later, which is the copy that I have, where that character dies and all of the other disturbing shit is re-included. I was so shocked that this character does not die in the end of Offspring that I went on a multiple minute, 5 to 10 minute long deep dive of like Barnes and Noble and Amazon and Wikipedia and Goodreads reviews to make sure that there was not an uncensored copy that I had missed, to make sure that I did not have some original censored copy of the book and was missing out on disturbing shit. And as far as I can find, this is the correct copy. It's just much tamer and much safer feeling than the first one. I I mean, fuck, I would have expected that character to die in the end of a PG-13 movie. Like this would have been like nothing if that character had died. It was like completely expected given how the character was built up. He's like some more spoilers. This is a little heavier. You might be able to figure out who it is. Actually, no, you won't. Still light spoilers. The character was talking to his dead wife throughout the majority of the book, and like I'll be with you soon kind of shit. And then he doesn't die. I was fucking flabbergasted. If anyone in the comments knows if there is an uncensored copy and I may have gotten a censored copy, please tell me, because I am absolutely not aghast, just flabbergasted that this character is still alive at the end of the book. Anyway, that aside, let's talk some about the tension throughout the book. There are still scenes of tension, like there were in Off Season, where your heart gets pumping and you fear for the characters. The only difference is that in Off Season, you fear for these characters and then they die. He fucking kills them. He fucks them up the ass and murders them brutally. And in this book, that doesn't happen but one time. And it was still disturbing and shocking when the character died, but not like in a way like it wasn't Off Season where I wasn't expecting it. Like when, oh, what's her face? The fucking first woman dies after we've gotten attached to her and she's been written as like this main character. And I'm like, oh, this woman's going to live to the end. And then she fucking dies. That was shocking to me. This character, I was more shocked just by I was less shocked, but I was more shocked by just the disturbing factor than I was that he killed this character off because I was expecting it. And then I was more shocked that he didn't kill off more characters. I mean, again, that guy at the end, and then also in the beginning, there's a scene where this main character is walking through the woods alone. And I was like, oh, fuck, they're going to kill this person. And then he didn't kill this person. And I was confused. And then more of these people didn't die when they could have. And there were a couple of scenes where people get saved from dying right in the nick of time, like in an action film. And I was more confused. But the tension is there. it still got my heart racing. I was still like flipping through pages faster and faster as I was reading. It was enthralling and interesting and a decent book, but I'll just leave you with it was much safer and less disturbing and on the cusp of being extreme horror. And in my opinion, I just didn't as like it as much as the original, given what the original was and represents to me. Just like not fucking caring about your characters, even though you've built them up to be this incredible thing. It just compared to that, it feels worse, but not by much. It's still a very good book. I'll give you a plot summary now. So there's a woman and a babysitter and a baby, and Peters from the first book. By the way, major spoilers. Forgot to say that. I already put the spoiler warning up, but I'm just gonna say it now as well. Major spoilers. Um, Peters is called in by the new sheriff in town. He's been retired. His wife has died, and he's brought to this house where this mother and this babysitter have been brutally murdered, and the baby is missing. And they all come to the conclusion, these cops, that yeah, the cannibalistic troglodytes are back. And then we cut to the perspective of a man named David, I believe, his wife Amy, and their baby girl Melissa, who are in a house, and Amy's friend Claire and her 10-year-old, I believe, son Luke, who are coming to visit them. Claire and Luke are coming to visit them because Claire needs to decompress from the awful divorce proceedings she's been going through with her husband, who has just been served. And then they get a phone call saying that the husband is actually on his way up to the house in the middle of bumfuck nowhere to meet with Claire because he's really upset and he's very controlling and abusive and probably a sociopath or psychopath. And unbeknownst to them, they've been getting stalked by the cannibalistic family who are going to break into the house and kill the baby in some sort of weird ritual sacrifice thing. And then they break into the house whilst the husband, Stephen, is on his way and kill David very brutally. And Amy is about to be killed. And then she is suddenly saved by the husband pulling into the driveway. Claire has run upstairs with the baby and her son, and they jump out the window and run away. The husband gets his car attacked by the troglodytes and then drives off. He gets caught by the police. And they find out that he is actually wanted for the murder of a woman who turned out to be who was his mistress. He did murder her. He strangled her with a hairdryer cord, I believe. He rapes the body to make it seem like it was a sex crime. They catch him, they bring him up to the house, and then they realize who he is. When the dispatcher comes over the radio, he jumps out of the car and runs away. They get to the house, the cops, they find David dead, find Amy missing. She's been taken by the troglodytes. They run into the woods. Two of them die. They think the troglodytes think they have killed Peters as well, but it's actually just a whiskey bottle in his pocket that's broken, and then they just see the liquid and think that it's a lot of blood. They take Amy back and back to the cave that they are living in. They find Claire. Luke runs away with the baby and stores her up in a treehouse that he found earlier for safekeeping, and then follows Claire as she is taken back to the cave. Claire's in the cave, Amy's in the cave, Luke is down at the base of the cave, watching and keeping watch. And then Peters comes along, and he meets up with Luke, and Luke's like, go up in there. He goes up in there, and kills all the cannibals. And that's the end of the book. Peters is alive, even though I think he was stabbed repeatedly. Pretty bad, too. And was bleeding all over. He's alive. Amy's alive. Claire is bleeding everywhere, but she's alive. Luke's perfectly fine. The baby's up in the treehouse. There's a kid with the baby, one of the cannibals, but he falls out of the treehouse after Luke pulls him out, and then Melissa's fine. And that's the end of the book. Now you can see what I'm talking about with Peters. He is built up through the entire book to be talking to his dead wife. He's an alcoholic. He's out of shape, which is actually really, really funny because both of those things save him, because when he is attacked in the woods with the other two cops, and not only does his whiskey bottle save them from doing a double tap because they think he's bled so much, but also his flab caught the knife. So they actually only hit his fat. That's the only reason he survived, even though he's fucking, they talk about how he's bleeding everywhere and he should be dead, blah 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 blah. Anyway, I'll tell you one of the disturbing scenes really fast. They take Amy up into the cave and they string her up by her hair. They wrap her hair up in line, I don't think it's fishing line, and then string her up off of the cave ceiling by her hair, this cave wall. They have a sex slave named Cow, who is the man that is sexually assaulted throughout the book. They named him Cow, and they use him specifically for his milk. They rape him to get pregnant by him to produce more children. And that's pretty much it for disturbing scenes. Aside from David, I mean, they go into pretty good detail about him being butchered, but other than that, there's really not that much disturbing in the book. And that is really all I have to say to you. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. I will respond to your comments. If you dislike the video, please dislike the video, but don't disappear into the fucking cyberspace. Tell me why you dislike the video so that I can do better. If you didn't like my voice, tell me you didn't like my voice. If you thought my camera quality was shit, I know. I'm sorry. I can't do anything about it until I get a fucking GoPro or something. If you hate this kind of content, I don't know why you're here, but you're welcome to tell me that anyway. You're not going to hurt my feelings. As always, these opinions, aside from the trigger warning, aside from the scenes in the book, those are my opinions. You are welcome to read this book. As I always do, I will leave a URL to where you can buy this book. I would recommend you buy this book if you enjoyed Off Season. It is decent. It is a decent sequel. It is not as good as Off Season, again, in my opinion, but I would highly recommend you buy it and read it. And that's about it for this video. See ya. I am far too fucking tired to think of a joke for the end of this video, so I'll just sit here for a couple seconds.